Hey guys, it's Corey Beasley with Fight Camp Conditioning, and today we're going to talk about what we can learn from blue collar workers. So guys, if you've rolled, wrestled, fought, any of that stuff, everybody has a story of somebody that they've competed against or practiced against that was just an absolute monster, right? Somebody that maybe just worked construction or grew up on a farm or whatever it may be, right? I know personally I've worked with, guys that were iron workers and plumbers, and damn, dude, they're so freaking strong when they get their hands on you. But I think there's a lot to be learned there. As many of you guys know, I'm a big proponent of learning outside the gym. If those guys have fruit on their tree, so I want to learn some of the things that they're doing on a daily basis so that we can implement some of that stuff with our athletes to get them to have some of that farm boy strength, maybe if they didn't grow up in that environment. So I think what it boils down to, and I've always asked a lot of the different coaches, hey, what's farm boy strength? What is that? And everybody knows what I'm talking about. They've all experienced it. They've all seen it. And it's overwhelming, like a lot of times. Those are some of the strongest people I've ever been around, were guys that just worked, right? So I think there's a lot of ways that we can implement it. And when it comes down to a lot of them, I've heard people say they don't even really know how they got there. Maybe they grew up on a farm and they just did what needed to be done every single day, and it just over time, they developed a humongous work capacity and just working on their hands and moving stuff and doing all these general type things. But there are ways that we can do it. And what it really boils down to is it's a little bit of maybe a lower intensity work done for a long period of time, right? They might be working on something, laying bricks or, rolling barrels or swinging a hammer or doing wheelbarrow type stuff or moving sandbags. The idea doesn't really, the method or whatever specific exercise you want to do really doesn't matter as much, but the volume and intensity the volume is long, the intensity is a little bit lower, but in my mind, it tends to work a lot with your hands, right? A lot of those guys are swinging hammers or grabbing sandbags or bricks, or they're moving stuff back and forth at odd objects. So we can implement that stuff in, but the intensity's low, the volume's very, very high. It might be really good to use far away from a fight to kind of really build that work capacity or GPP type stuff. But there are a lot of ways we can implement this stuff. So one of the first ways that we saw was Matt Brown, fights in the UFC, developed this war wagon, I think is what he calls it. But you basically it's just a wheelbarrow that's kind of custom made. We could load this thing up with weight. You just pick it up and walk with it. But you want to talk about your forearms and your whole body just getting a lot of work as you're moving around. This thing is an absolute killer. And again, it just simulates working with a wheelbarrow on a farm or on a construction site and moving big heavy loads around. And you'd be shocked at how it'll humble people really real quick. And I know Matt's also got these big old war hammer, like sledgehammer things. So something that's going to be like swinging a sledgehammer over and over and getting that repetitive type work, that explosive work. Those things are absolutely cool. He rounded them out so that you're not hitting with that hammer and having it roll your wrists. But both the War Wagon and those War Hammers, he did an incredible job putting them together, so look into those. This next one is one that we kind of picked up from a lot of people we talked with that were in the military, throwing big old rucksacks and stuff on and carrying heavy loads for long periods of time. We picked this up. It's actually a hunting pack for carrying an animal out once you quarter them up and get them done. But it's just basically a backpack. And what I'll do is I'll throw sandbags in here and throw it over my shoulder and just go for a walk, right? So, rucking, I think, is what they call it. But even, whether it's military, whether it's hunting and that type of stuff, carrying heavy loads for long periods of time is incredibly difficult. It's not maybe the intensity is not super high, but don't get it twisted. When we say low intensity, that doesn't always mean easy. So this next one is a sandbag. This one is from Josh Hankins' Ultimate Sandbag. But again, you could use a sandbag from Home Depot or anything like that too. It doesn't really matter. We've used those in the past. But I remember when talking with Josh specifically, what's farm boy strength, and he said it's just low intensity, sub-maximum work done all day long. So what I like about sandbags, right, this does have handles for a variety of other things that they do, which is great. But you can just simply grab them, right? So you have to use your fingers, you have to use your hands to grab that odd implement. And then you might be moving it, right? We might just simply pick it up and move, right? Put it up on the shelf, put it back. Put it up on the shelf, put it back. Put it up on the shelf, put it back. And we might do that 50 to 100 times. But it's the duration, that volume at a lower intensity over time becomes incredibly difficult. And you'd be shocked how many people can't keep up. It just completely wipes them out. So Sandbag is just another really, really good option. We can do a ton of different exercises with it. And another tool just to get that farm boy strength or that blue collar strength in your athletes. So over the years, guys, I've been really fortunate to, I met John Brookfield a long time ago. He has a Guinness Book of World Record for grip strength. But he's just a blue collar dude from North Carolina. And the dude is probably one of the strongest guys I've ever met. I mean, just absolutely insane. But he epitomizes the kind of the blue collar, strong type work, and he did an incredible job. He's the developer of the battling rope system. So a lot of you guys might have seen the waves, which are incredible for conditioning. But one of my favorites is the never-ending rope pull, which we could showcase in another video. But you basically just take a big, thick rope. This is a 2-inch rope. You wrap it. The more times you wrap it around the post, the harder that thing is to pull. But it's kind of like a guy, you know, pulling line, pulling wire, pulling up an anchor, that type of stuff, but just that repetitive pulling motion, and it just crushes your hands, right? Your back, your torso, all that type of stuff. But the ropes are just another blue collar tool that I think is really, really underused. The other one, a lot of people haven't seen or know about, is these big, heavy barrels. And John told me one time, like, hey, come out to the house. I want you to fly out. I got something new I want to show you. And he wouldn't tell me what it was, but I got in his garage and he had probably 6, 8 of these barrels like all over his garage. Some were full of water, some were full of sand. And I had no idea what to expect, but we spent the next couple days pushing and pulling and rolling them and manipulating these things in different ways. And you can't believe how much it just engages your stomach, your legs, your arms, but it's seamless. Like there's the learning curve is almost none. But rolling these big heavy barrels around and pushing them, it's kind of like guys that are on an oil rig, right? I've heard those guys that just moving those big barrels around all day long are some of the strongest human beings on earth. So we use some of that stuff, right? We push them, we pull them, and we use the exercise variables to make sure we're doing the right dose, the right intensity, and getting the athletes where they need to be. But again, a lot of these blue collar tools are they're working on weak links that you're just not going to see in 24-hour fitness or a big corporate gym. So guys, hopefully some of those things that we presented get your brain moving, right? As I believe blue collar workers, a lot of these guys that are very physical all day long are some of the strongest people that I've ever met, right? And you probably had your experiences on your own. So use that stuff, like look around, look outside the gym a little bit, see some other ways, maybe be a little bit creative, whether it's, you know, pulling on rope or moving heavy loads or carrying stuff or swinging a hammer. I believe those are valuable tools to have in your arsenal for those, maybe when you're far away from camp, building that work capacity, that strength endurance, working on your grip strength. I think it's very, very valuable stuff that's incredibly effective, and hopefully it helps you guys out. If you guys have any questions or comments, definitely leave them down below. We'll do our best to point you in the right direction or interact with you. You know, maybe you guys got stories. I'd love to hear about them. And as always, hit that subscribe button up above. We would love to stay in contact with you, and we got a ton of new content coming out, so we want to make sure we get that in your hands.